Okay, so without further ado, we'll get going with Lettering.js, and then after that, we'll do like the 5-minute sort of bio break, intermission, and then we'll get moving on to the next section.
Sweet. Oh, Dave.
Yeah. Woo. Hi.
Hey.
Hi, Dave. Hi, Dave. My name is Dave Rupert, and I wrote a little jQuery plugin, not just a little plugin, but it's a radical jQuery plugin, a jQuery plugin for radical web typography. You can find me on Twitter, DavidTron5000 with an A. There's a doppelganger with an E, so don't follow that douchebag. But or DaveRupert.com is my blog. He's a good guy. We're just doppelgangers, so we're like, there's anonymity. So and then all this is up on GitHub. So I kind of expect people to like fork this as I'm talking about it, but just because you guys are rock solid. So, a little bit about me. I work at Paravel. Paravel is a 3-man team, and it's so much a 3-man team. Our logo is a Triforce. We design, we code, we love, and we watch a lot of movies. And this one's the Three Amigos. Trent Walton is the famous. There's me. I'm the developer, and Reagan Ray is our art director. And if you want to feel bad about yourself, like go visit his portfolio, because it's like really stellar illustrations, and you just kind of you're like, I wish I could draw. So it kind of hurts your feelings. But we're at paravelinc.com, and more importantly, I host the ATX Web Show. Yeah! Everyone's favorite podcast that's taking the world by storm. At least 50 listeners. The ATX Web Show is a podcast all about the web design and development community here in Austin, Texas. And basically the whole premise for this show is that I love Austin. And I don't think it should be treated as the bastard coast to the east and the west coast, because if you look at the quality of work there, sometimes it's not that good. So, and I think like we do really stellar stuff here in town. And so I'm like, I want to support people. So if you or your company are doing like awesome things on the web, please get in touch with me. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to have you on the show. Talk about what you're doing. It helps if you actually have like a product you can use. Not like a super stealth beta, but I'd love to talk to you about it. And on the last show, Joe and Garen were on it just for a little bit. And so, so support your JavaScripters. So, what is lettering? Well, I already told you, it's a jQuery plugin for Duh. But not really. It's really just a glorified span injector. So you might be saying to yourself, why would I use such a thing? But we'll go into it. I'm not that great at JavaScript. JavaScript for me is really a lot through the jQuery, like Sizzle API. So like, how many of you are like kind of new to JavaScript or don't really touch it much in your daily work? Okay, that's good showing. How many of you like are like hardcore commit to like a library every day? Or every day?
Every day.
There's kind of a medium. Really, like this was my first plugin. This was I learned a lot through actually the help of Paul Irish and Alex Sexton. They kind of baby guarded me to a 6.0.6.1 version. So, and we'll kind of talk about that. And then we'll kind of go into like examples and stuff like that. But first, I want to give you like a little bit of a history of Lettering.js. It's not that old. It's only like about 4 or 5 months old. But like, I want to talk about like why it exists, and I feel like I'm going to take some time to do that. And and this guy's kind of emo. He just died. He really wants the days of handwritten print. So web font explosion. Did you guys know that we are part of a web font explosion? Web fonts are like exploding all over the web. Everyone's using it. I would wager that how many of you were using web fonts in early 2009, 2 years ago? How many of you are using them right now? As you can see, like That was like an 80%, 8,000% explosion. So here's the actual graph, Google trend for font face, and you can kind of see it just doubling, tripling every quarter or so. So it's really taking off. And so the question is kind of like, what does all this mean? And so my next slide is the invasion of the blogazine. Have you guys heard this term, blogazine? It's a miserable term. It's the worst term in the world, but I wanted it. It's basically like the concept of art direction and things that you would traditionally do in print and magazine design is now invading the web. So when you put up a blog post, I mean, everyone's seen like the default WordPress theme, Kubrick or 2010. I mean, yeah, it's writing on the internet, but is it emotional? No. Is it butt ugly? Yes. Does it does it do anything for you? No. When you see a blog that's in these like stock themes, are you like impacted by it? Not really, unless it's got like a nugget of code or something that you're really looking for. So, so this is kind of started. This guy Jason Santamaria, who I'll talk about a little bit more, he kind of pioneered it, or he had a really successful blogazine, but really just he does a custom post for every post he puts on his blog. He has like a default theme, but he does a custom post for every post he does. He like re-CSS's everything, and so when you go to his site, you don't just read it in the RSS reader. You actually go to the site because you're interested in how he's presenting this information. Does that make sense? You guys tried it? So, and a lot of people have picked up on this. There's a Smashing Magazine article about it, and I encourage you to read it. It gives about a few, or like a half dozen examples of people who are doing it. And I think it's an older article. It's like a year old. So, but yeah, so that's that. And then my company, Parabo, Trent, he's going to kill me for saying this, but he has a blogazine style blog. But he'll do one, like he'll style the front post of his site differently every time. And maybe because of that, or maybe because of my company's like attention to CSS detail, like we kind of go for the pixel perfect. We're kind of obnoxious and we get a lot of nosebleeds, but like we go for like pixel perfect CSS just because. But we got picked to do this Lost Worlds Fairs project for the release of IE9 Beta. Microsoft hired this guy who pulled in these guys, pulled in this guy, who pulled in this guy, and it's like, who? So we had this project for IE9 Beta, and basically IE9 now supports WOFF fonts, W-O-F-F, which are awesome because font foundries tend to like them, and they just, it's sort of like the format we're going to be serving fonts on the web. So they wanted to show off that they do that. And so these guys, these four, not this guy, they all sat around and kind of decided, like, what could we do to show this off? And what they came up with were posters, like web posters, for mythical lost, or like Lost Worlds Fairs that like never happened. And I'm just going to go through them. I have a couple of examples here, or there's just 3. So it's not much. But I just want you to like kind of pick it out as like a front-end CSS guy and just be like, how would I do that? Okay? So there's this one. When this comp was delivered to us, we were just like, holy crap. This is like a Hatch-inspired poster. Really, like you see the double prints. You see like this letter and this letter are one word, but they're different sizes and different fonts. And then like this one here has a weird accent, and this one's vertical. This one has a weird J. I mean, you're just sitting there and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. You know, that's actually not real possible. But I guess I could write it out. I mean, you guys are smart, so you're like, spans! And that's true. And so we'll leave the next one. This one was by Frank Camaro and of Kickstarter fame, and he made so like this is fine, it looks normal, but they're like 2 pixels different, and then this here, and then these have to be like spread apart, and you could use letter spacing, but that gets all weird, and then you need like a VR here, and then like, that's like 3 fonts, and then and this is some fonts, so you're just like getting into this, and you're just like, I'm gonna have to do this over and over and over, and like your code base is just gonna get wicked gnarly. So this was a lot of fun to code. I encourage you to go look at it, lostworldsfairs.com, but it's like 20,000 pixels tall, so it's like ridiculous, but it's a fun drive. This one was by Jason Santamaria. Like here, each letter or each number is different. This is a really big word in like a $300 font, and I mean, you gotta make it look good, right? I mean, if you're putting a $300 font on your website, really large, like you want it to look good, and then like these letters here, there's no CSS property for like slightly escalating letters. WebKit slightly escalating letters. Awesome, but it doesn't exist yet. So like we had all this, and it was, I mean, you can imagine if these came across your desk, these PSCs, you would either A, be like, no, bro, sorry, it's going to look like the way I do it, or if you're being paid by Microsoft and working with these really fancy designers, they're going to be like, yes, sir. And so Trent and I sat around, and so here's like the objective. So show off WAF support. Fonts were provided by Typekit because like they like Typekit, and then maintainable HTML CSS was like my thing. Like I'm not going to code like every span in the word July 23rd through 26th or whatever. Like that would be miserable. So we wrote Lettering.js. Pretty simple. That was ding. So we wrote it, and what started, Trent and I were sitting around and we were looking at these comps, and we were just like, dude, we got to do something about it. So we just like started, we were just like, we can do like some spans, and we'll just start there. But then I was like, well, I'll just write like some jQuery to like auto-inject all that stuff. And then we created Lettering.js. In about an hour or so, we had like a really crappy version working, and just some scripts. So here's a little bit about how Lettering.js works, and you can tell by the font I'm diving into code. I realize not all of you are code guys. So who's design background? Did I ever ask this question? Design background? Code background? Okay. All right, so there's a lot of codies. So, if designers or developers, if I get like too deep and you don't understand what's going on, or I skip over something, we're going to have a safe word. And that safe word is black magic. And if you think I did something that's like black magic, or just you're like, I'm not comfortable with that, can you please explain it? Just say black magic. That's easy. So here we go. Oh, that's really dark. Can you see it? Can you see it way in the back? Yeah, can you drop one?
Try.
Come on, Joe.
Black magic.
Okay, here we go. So basically you start with normal HTML. This is just HTML, H1, ID, fancy title, some title, it doesn't matter. Then you sprinkle in some JavaScript, right? So you do your jQuery, you add lettering, which is the thing we're going to talk about later, and then you wait for the document ready, even though you don't have to do that, but it's probably good if you're just starting out. And then you take the fancy title and you shoot it out to lettering. And then what lettering does is it says, boom, letter control, and it's going to spit out all these spans. But like the spans are ordinal based on a 1, but so it's car 1, car 2, car 3, car 4. I think you guys get it. You can understand it. And it's really, I don't want to misuse the word semantic, but to me it's very semantic. It's saying this is the first character, this is the second character. To me, I get
Black magic.
Black magic. Okay, I'll step back up. But to me, it just makes sense. So basically all I did was we just sort of formalized that or whatever. And then you just use plain old CSS. So we style the fancy title and the font, and this is actually going to be like your fallback. And then you do characters, you change the color, you change the text shadow color. This one, you just change them. And then you're going to end up, in this example, this ends up with like a logo, or subtitle will look, the word subtitle, our fancy title, will look a little bit like the Lettering.js logo or whatever. So it's just really simple. And then how about words? Well, our logical next step was like, we have to split up words too. Well, we should just do words. So word split, throw it through lettering, but with the method words, and yeah, it does words. And it'll do word 1, word 2, word 3. I know what you're thinking. Does it break lines? Line split, lettering, pass it through the lines method, and yeah, get on the face. It does fine. Over here, line 1, line 2, line 3. Crazy, right? You wouldn't have thought to call it all these ordinal things. But it works. It's really good. And so we had the plugin. But yeah.
Does it have to be on a VR, or does it? No.
Well, okay, that's good. Thank you. Back up. Basically, we were kind of deciding like, how would you fall back? That's sort of where we started at. And so basically, like HTML has lines, they're BRs. So it's like you do a BR and it goes to another line, right? So that's kind of like the normal HTML way. And then and then you'd have to set like a line height to fall back on. But then when the JavaScript injects, it replaces the BRs, so you're left with span tags, and you just need to do display block for the span tags. And then that would just stagger them or make them full width. Sound good?
But it doesn't like auto-detect a line wrap.
No, it doesn't detect a line wrap. So you have to like force it. So, and you want it kind of forced anyway if you're styling it. So anyway, this plugin is really simple. This is actually the whole plugin. Like, this is 0.6.1 after Slex, Axton's, and Paul Irish's help, which I highly recommend. If you're writing a plugin or anything, like run it by a genius first, and, or two. And there's a lot of geniuses in this community who would help you out. So if you're like going to release something, run it by them so you don't look like a DB. And just because, I mean, really, like if you're gonna like sell something, sell it good, you know, like. And if you want people to use it, just make sure it's gone through its paces. So yeah, it's really tiny. It's only 38 lines of code, and that's so like it's sort of. It's not big, and I bet you're thinking to yourself, wow, that's so tiny, you could almost give a line-by-line walkthrough. I'm so glad you asked. So here we go. And who's written a jQuery plugin before? Okay, so like most of you guys, that's awesome. And then the rest of you haven't. So it's really simple. It's really easy. So like you have this first line and this last line, you don't really. Just put it there. Just put it there. jQuery says so just put it there. But basically, you're passing jQuery back up to the $sign. So that's how you use the $sign in jQuery, basically. So we're going to kind of go through it a little bit by little bit.
Magic.
Sorry, that was PowerPoint. So we're going to go through. I like to think of it in this way, like we're going to attack the methods first, and then each of these methods ends up calling this injector function, and then you have this number 3 here. That's basically your function that when you call myelement.lettering, it's hitting this and this, deciding which method to choose, which ends up spitting out the injector. So it's kind of like reverse, but stay with me. We'll get through it. So the methods are really simple. There's an init method, or you could call it letters. There's an alias for that. But basically, it'll take each element you pass through it and then send this to the injector. And then there's 2 or 3 other, variables. There's the what you want to split on, the class of it, like what your ordinal is, car, word, or line, and then what you want after the letter, or after the span tag. And so this one is very simple. We're just going to split it on every character, call it a character, and then add nothing after it. Words is very similar. You take each line of code, like each CSS element you're trying to pass, you run it through the injector, and then you do a space. For words, that's what you're splitting on. Every word has a space in between it, hopefully. In other languages, it's a little different, but word, and then you add a space afterwards. And then this one's my favorite. I'll give you time to read it, but this is the lines one, and I had a little bit of trouble with it. Basically, you can't just be like, get BR and split it in IE, because IE sucks. Which is ironic, because I'm working with IE on this project, right? So it has to work. But that's like older IEs. I just got creative. I could probably use regex, right? Regex is valid. But I'm not that great at regex, so if you want to fork it and add regex, that would be sweet. But I've been like testing JS perfing. Is that a word? Is that what the kids are doing these days? JSperf.com. But JS perfing like strings, like splitting on strings versus regexes, and there's kind of mixed reviews or whatever, which I would have thought it would be regex all the way, but it's not all the time. But anyway, so basically we're setting an MD5 of the word split. So it works fine unless you're going to try and split if you have this hash somewhere in your lettering string. And if you do, it's just ridiculous. Because you're like blogging about code, and that's dumb. No. So basically it's going to get this. It's going to find all the children. I'm going to use jQuery to find it because I trust them. And I'm going to replace all instances of BR with this. And then I'm going to end that one. And then I'm going to split it with this. And then I'm going to call it a line, and I'm going to add nothing after it. So that's that. So the injector function, which I talked about, has T is this, but just think of it as text, the splitter, the class, and after. So I'm going to make an array of the text split with the splitter, and then inject is just an empty string. And if the array has anything in it versus nothing, it will start for every item in the array. It's going to add to this inject string, and it's just going to build all the spans together, say for your title or whatever. And then it's going to use a class character, line, or word, and it's going to iterate the number so it keeps going up, right? And then you're going to put the item back in there, and then you're going to put whatever's after, and that's really just the space after words. And then, lastly, you empty out your target, or the string, or whatever, the text. You empty it out because it was just text. So you empty it, and then you're going to append, reinsert the injection string, that big span. So really, it's that easy. And then this is lettering, effing lettering. And so this is just like an if-else statement. If it sounds too crazy, but basically this is just like standard pulled from jQuery site. But it gets confusing. I'll let somebody else higher up explain why arguments you have to pass through apply and slide, or why you have to slice arguments and apply it. So anyway, but basically if the method exists, you use the method. And then if it doesn't, or if somebody got crafty and typed in letters because they thought that was part of it, it'll just do the init method. So, and then if none of that works, like you typed in Ninja or something like that, it would just do that doesn't exist. Method Ninja doesn't exist. Does that make sense? Any questions? No? All right, I'm going to keep going. I'm just going to show you some examples of Lettering.js in the wild. Some of you are probably like, I would never use this, and chances are you never would. Yeah, but I just want to show you kind of what people are doing with it, like real world examples. And then I'm going to talk just a little bit about that at the end. And so basically, Trent Walton, the guy I work with, who I told you about, his blogging, he has this title here. He used lettering on it. And basically, it's just a little bit of rotation on the letters, and they get a little bigger as they come out of this dude's mouth. Like, that's fine, you could do that with an image, but like, the fun is doing it with text. And so like, that's all selectable text. You could highlight it, you could copy it, you could paste it and do an email, or whatever. It may lose the rotation, because I don't think your mail program has WebKit rotate. So all that exists, and we'll just keep going. But this is a friend of mine, Yaron, and he has a difficult name to pronounce. And we call him Yaron all the time in the Texas vernacular, Yaron. But his name is Yaron. And so he made this handy-dandy website to help you pronounce his name. And he used lettering. Like, that's all just letters and fonts. And you're looking at it now, and you're like, that looks just like an image. Yeah, but it's all text. It's just text. And like, he can do this 150,000 times just using the same font and like 6 lines of CSS.
Technically, that's an image, though, right?
Yeah, this is actually an image. A screenshot. This is called a screenshot. Yeah, it would be cool if I did like Slide Rocker or whatever it is on the web. Anyway, I'm not going to do it. This guy, designingmonsters.com, he did the lines thing. And so each line is lettering. And basically he's adding this, like he's making some lines bigger, obviously you can decipher that. But it's basically like adding interesting things to what is basically just a paragraph, that like a block quote that he's stuck in on. This guy, Chris Goyer of CSS Tricks, used it. He made this is actually an animation, but he made like this movie trailer, or like, you know how we used to do sites like back in the day with Flash, like letters like swooping in, like he did that with.
What do you mean used to?
Used to. I meant last week, but as of last week. But so he made all these like letters swooping in, and he used like some background clip and stuff like that. But it's a pretty sweet example, and he's a really outstanding guy. So he blogs a lot on CSS. You've probably come across his site at some point. This is maybe my favorite. Some guy made a retro Doritos bag with lettering, and you're maybe saying to yourself, why? Because it's fun, and it's awesome. This is like amazing to me, almost as amazing as why do Doritos taste better outside than they do inside? Ask yourself. Oxygen. This guy, Dan Higby, is a friend of the family, we'll say, but he's used lettering more than a few times, and he's just going for it. Like, I think he really understands it. Like, I mean, he's curving letters, which has no business to be done in HTML. You're sort of like, what, this is an image to you guys. I mean, but he's actually like spinning these letters, and he could make them rotate, he can make them flip, he can make them drop out. But he's basically taking one H1 and he's splitting it up by words, and then he's doing custom lettering on each one that he wants to do. So I think it's awesome. So I look forward to stuff like this, and yeah.
So he's running lettering on each word and then on each character?
Yeah, he's chaining it. So like, just like anything in jQuery, you can chain lettering. And so he's doing each word, and then he's drilling down, and he's doing each span. Or like, so you have an H1, you do it by words. You'll have, I guess in this situation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 words. And then like word 1, lettering, or word 2, lettering. So, yeah. And yeah, so I really like his style. He's doing it really well. Typekit is a font, rent-a-font service. I really like them, actually. We can get into like whether or not to support them over beers later. But they used it on their little Happy Holidays card. And they had all these letters like falling and stuff like that. So it was really cool. Really kind of a nice little vote of confidence that an organization like Typekit would use this. So, and even bigger than that was when I saw this on the Twitter 2010 year review, they used lettering on their headline. And like when you see this sort of stuff, I'm sure you guys experienced this. You're just like, oh my gosh! Like you like shut down for the whole day. You're just like, Twitter is my thing. You just shut down. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, it just looks like a headline. But then, like you start seeing, oh yeah, the V10 is stacked in tweets, and of is a totally different font in 2010. And so yeah, they used it there. And this is kind of the only stuff you can get through lettering at the moment. Ideally, it would be a part of CSS, but well, that's like later. But yeah. So I guess one thing, sort of, I'm gonna go off on the last little tangent, but then I'm done, so you guys can like go drink more beer. But like one of the reasons I really like lettering is because not because like web needs to compete with print whatsoever, like because web has totally obliterated print. I'm not like too worried about the web winning that war, but like in terms of emotional design, and even just like thrill, or even just this conveys information differently than just one line of text. Like there's emotion to this headline, and so that is one reason I really like lettering. I like what people are doing with it, and I like how it's kind of bridging the print and just web world. We're not just stuck in the like old model of log title, post date words, log title, post date words. It's like have fun with it, build stuff. Yeah, do it on stuff like your year in reviews, or do it on stuff like your band's website or something like that. You could have like a really wicked Metallica M or something. I don't know. You decide. But yeah, so that's it. Thank you. Questions, comments, or forks? So yeah. Anyone? Yes, sir.
What browser did you use for your screenshots? And relatedly, what does it look like in other browsers? Or in Windows with clear type turned off?
In Windows with, I mean, it's, okay, in all the browsers, it works fine, because it's just spans. Right? The issue of like clear type and web fonts gets really sticky, because not all fonts work well on Windows without clear type. With or without? Without. With. Without. Okay. So, I mean, it works fine. Like, we tested all of these in all versions of IE. And,
so, in your experience, like, I mean, I imagine there are tiny differences in, like, metrics and font sizes and that sort of thing. And, like, do you try to make it look the same in all browsers? Or do you...
Yeah, to the best of our ability. I mean, sometimes you may have to sacrifice your design, because Firefox will treat things on like a half pixel or something like that. But really, it's the web, so we try to be flexible at all times, generally.
That's a CSS problem, not a JavaScript.
Yeah, exactly. It's a CSS thing, and really, I mean, there's things you can do to get around it, and unfortunately, lettering doesn't help. You know, like it doesn't fix CSS woes, but yeah.
Well, I was on that topic. Have you thought about, not to repeat this is cool, but
Sure.
have you thought about things like making it possible for the plugin to do more than just one thing per unit of text? So be able to create a span that captures wordness and letterness at the same time. So that, for example, you surround each letter with a span, but the letters in the first word also get the class word one.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Well, you can do that with chaining.
Yes. Now you surround them with two spans. Then.
That's true. Yeah.
It's not exactly the same.
No, I haven't done that yet.
Fork it.
I mean, you definitely could. One thing, there is a fork, or like a pull request out, but I'm just taking my time. I don't want to just add crap to it. But this guy has done, using the data car, or data attributes, he did data character, data car, and then he stuffed the character into that. So, I mean, you could, in theory, use the word like stuffed into that, and just to say what part of the word is. But it gets really long. I don't know. And so I'm just like weighing it. Like, should I do that or should I not? Like, it would be helpful to like make sure every T and every I are like close together in all your headings or something like that. But yeah, so it's like Paris and Curry, which I may add, but yeah.
What do you do about flash of unstyled content?
Good question. Flash of unstyled content, FALC, as we call it. Basically, because this all renders after the DOM loads, or it should render last. One thing we've had to do, just to minimize it, is move our jQuery and our lettering to the head, which shouldn't come as a surprise if you're using web fonts, because Typekit and all those, serviced fonts, you have to load in the head. You actually load those like before you load the CSS, which is really weird. But yeah, so we've just been putting it up top, and it works pretty fast. But I mean, the main goal is to make sure you're like, I don't know, you have a good fallback. So that's kind of the tough part, is like make sure this works without lettering to some degree before you like commit to it. Does that help you?
To Andrew's question, I guess earlier, with something like the technique in HTML5 boilerplate, you can do like the IE conditional HTML tags that put like the correct class on the HTML element itself, and then you could actually target .ie6 .car1 or id.car1, and then you could do something specifically for IE6 if you wanted, just purely in CSS.
Yeah, it's true. You can do like a conditional HTML tag, or is that what it is?
Yeah, it's a conditional comment around the HTML element tag. Yeah.
And that's, yeah. I can't think, have we ever had a chance, like, where we had to like abandon it?
No, not that I can remember.
No, I don't think so. We usually use it with like really beefy fonts, so so that's a trick. If you're doing like font facing on IE, use really beefy fonts. Don't use like your dainty thin ones. So, yeah. Anything else? Well, thank you guys very much.
All right, that was probably one of the best presentations ever at AustinJS. Yes! So we're going to take about a 5-minute break. The bathrooms, women's room is down the hall, first door on the right, men's is the third door on the right. You should have got a card. So this is for asking a question or a joke or an insult or whatever, just to like keep it, somewhat funny. But JavaScript related questions, and we'll go around, do a little round robin in 5 minutes. Oh, before I forget, the beer and pizza would not be possible without our sponsors, uship.com and TechSystems. And I'm not sure about uship, but I know TechSystems has a ton of jobs available. So if you're looking for work, talk with Andre from TechSystems, and
We're also hiring.
And uship.com is also hiring. So we'd like to thank the sponsors. 5 minutes, and we'll come and circle back around.
Not bad, you?